everybody, it's Mike. I'm the proud owner of a MODX, just got it. I'm a long-time Yamaha type person. This is an exploration of hooking up DAWs. In the upper right is the loopback program that in Mac world is it's an audio routing system where you can build routes of various things to various things. And in this particular demo, I want to show that this is the audio interface of the MODX, and it's got a couple outputs. You can do lots of stuff in this. I'm not going to demo this, but then the destination of this particular device right now is my main audio interface, which is a multi-channel machine that's sitting down here, and I thought it would be neat to show how, there it is. The MODX is producing sound. There are times when there's no sound, and you go, why? And it's nice to be able to look and see if it's producing sound, because then you can tell something. It also shows up here in the USB column, but not the analog. This is also hooked up, and these are the cables, and you could plug these in to an audio interface. But I like using USB sound better for work on a synth. It's cleaner, I think, and so that's what we're doing today. So here it is. I've got it a little turned down because I found that it got a little overwhelming. So there's that. And then the last tool in the toolkit is a gizmo called MIDI monitor. There it is. It's just a really great free tool from S-Noise. Give them a plug. There's where you get it, snoise.com. Terrific piece of software. And it's going to monitor the MIDI, which is the other puzzler. Why am I getting no sound? Am I got sound? Yeah, I've got sound. I got no notes. I need to provide notes. So right now it's showing a lot of clock and active sense stuff coming out of the port 1 of the MODX. Port 1 is the secret code for the MODX device. And so we'll filter those off just because we don't particularly care about them. But then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it spy on software-generated MIDI, this being MIDI that's coming from the DAW back to the MODX, because sometimes the reason there's no sound is because the MODX isn't generating its own MIDI, and it's counting on the DAW to deliver it, and the DAW isn't either. So this is sort of our toolkit, and I'll just tuck this down a little bit so that it's out of the way, and that's the end of the intro. Okay, here's the Cubase version of this thing. I think if I was new to DAWs and new to the MODX, I would probably pick Cubase as the easiest one to get going on. I am a very experienced user of Live and Logic, and so Cubase is brand new for me, so I'm going to stumble a little bit. But I think if it was my first ever DAW and I was using a MODX, this is probably a pretty good choice, because right off the bat, when you fire it up, you get the choice that's right there that's highlighted that says make a multi-channel recording of a MODX. So let's just see how that behaves. We're going to bring that in there, do a little manipulating. And here we have, we've taken their advice just to show you the setting that we've got. They say that we should use either the MIDI record on DAW or the ARP record on DAW in utility, you know, the utility button over on the right. And then when it lights up, I think when you splash into utility the first time it comes to sound, if you go to quick settings, these are the settings they're talking about. They give you three choices. These are the three choices. This will record your notes. This will record the notes after the ARP, so see how the ARP switches sides between local control, but in both cases local control is turned off, and recording audio, local control is turned on, and the ARP is in the line, because you don't care about the MIDI at this point. You want to record audio. I want to show you how neat it is to record with the ARP playing its notes through MIDI, because it's a great way to get patterns into the DAW. I haven't, you know, my fingers haven't left my wrist. This is the setup that you're seeing in the DAW right now, and you can see me yakking away. I haven't figured out audio routing at all. I'm not going to try in Cubase because I would waste your time. So this is what comes up when you pick that option, and if you pick one channel at a time, you're going to hear one channel at a time. I happen to have a 4-part performance loaded, and so I'm going to light them all so that you can hear all 4 parts. It's got a rhythm section going and the whole works. So that's it. That's all it took. You just click, you enable whatever parts you want the thing to basically send back to the DAW, because what's happening here is MIDI is coming out of the MODX, it's going to Cubase, it's coming out of Cubase and going back to the MODX, and that's what's making the notes sound. So just to show you what I mean, if I only turn on one, let's turn on one of the melodic ones, like this one. I only hear one part, and it's because if you look down in the MIDI, it's sending all the MIDI. All 4 channels of MIDI are being sent, but they're not being sent back to the MODX. So as a result, we can only hear one. In order to get to the point where we can hear them all, we have to turn them all back on. Whoop, I missed. Now that we've fiddled around with that and made, understood that notes actually come out, let's do a recording. After all, this is about recording, right? So here it goes, and the end. And as you can see, there are different notes coming out of each part, including the arpeggiator parts. I think that's really slick, because now I can take those little arpeggiator parts and edit them, do all that stuff that, if I pick the one of those parts or this part, whatever. You know, I've got all these opportunities. So that's pretty neat. The other thing that came up, which you haven't seen so far, is this rascal. This is the MODX Connect VST. And one of the things you can do is you can, if you've got a different performance name in there, you can recall it in this particular case and then store it with this set. So, you know, what I could do is I could say, okay, I like cool breaks. I'm going to save this masterpiece that I just made as a Cubase project. When the Cubase project comes back and I reopen it, it will plunk the cool breaks performance back into the MODX automatically if I turn that on. So that's one of the things that this rascal does. The other thing is, let's say that I wanted to grab me a song. So I hit the store button. I don't know why it says store and not load and store or something like that. And it says, well, what do I want? Because, you know, you get to load and store in this menu. I want to load a song, and I have one song that I've made, new song, and there it is. And I could have done it another way. So let me get rid of that song. Go back to my store button, load, song, a new song. Okay, so that's, I think, yeah, that's now empty. But one of the things that's neat about this rascal is I can import the song without going through all that menu stuff. So if I have already recorded a song on the MODX and I don't want to record it in, that's what a lot of people do, is they'll have a song, they'll load it up on the MODX or on the synth or the sequencer, and then they'll play it and at the same time hit record on the DAW, and that's how they get it in. Well, this is easier. You can just drag it in like that. There's the song. And I'll show you. It's gonna just sound fine, I bet. Ta-da! So this is a way to bypass a bunch of menu clicking and playing and fooling around. You know, I can easily imagine sketching a song on the MODX just for fun, saving it for later, coming into Cubase, loading it up, firing it off you go. I think that's pretty nice. That concludes my report for getting Cubase going. Okay, this is the live version of this thing. And so we're just starting with a default live set. And we kind of have to build everything by hand, unlike the Cubase one, where it just all happened because it was a pre-built set. So the first thing we got to do is we got to add that cool MODX plugin. Oop. And it's a VST3, so we'll just plunk that. Oh, I want, yeah. before I do that, so MIDI tracks in live are tricky because they have two states. This is a pure MIDI track, and the way you can tell it is because it will do MIDI in all channels, and it will do MIDI out and channels, etc. However, if you put something in this, any kind of a VST in there, it changes into a software instrument track. Now the bottom half of this is audio. This confuses people. So if you're sitting here going, I want MIDI out the bottom of this, take a look down in the tray and make sure that you don't have an effect, or in this particular case, the MODX utility. So this is not any longer a pure MIDI track, and thus, in this particular case, because we're really just using it for the utility, we're going to kill everything. Don't have to. It's just, and these are just ways that I remind myself of things. I'm going to rename it that this is a MODX plugin, and so I don't try and write MIDI to it. And I'm going to turn off automation. That's confusing. And now I'm going to insert a few MIDI tracks. I think what I'll do is I'll build one. So the MODX is seen by Live as a MIDI device along with a few other things. I don't have a lot on here right now. And then we're going to send MIDI back to it on the same channel. We're going to make a gaggle of these just because we're doing that 4-part tune, and because we're building this by hand, we have to route all the MIDI by hand. So, my thought is that I'll build a template of this, but I wanted to do it with your eyes on me so that you could see how I did it. Now, if I play notes, I've got notes down here, but I don't have any sound coming out, and that's because I'm not monitoring the MIDI on any of these channels. However, if I turn one on, I get that channel. And if I turn this on, I'm going to get that rhythm track. And now let's go back to the old MODX plugin, turn that on. This is the same as it's in all the other ones, and so if I pull what's from the MODX, it yanks in the Cool Breaks performance. If I wanted to, I could send it back. Having done all that, let's just go ahead and do a little MIDI record so that we can demonstrate that this works. Okay. Oh, and on this one I've got sync set up. So notice what happened. When I hit play, I've got it set up so that Live is sending sync to the MODX. So let me show you that. I should have done that. Cubase has sync too. You can do this in Cubase if you are feeling sad because I didn't go through that. I don't know Cubase well enough to do a very good job of showing you how. But here I kind of know my way around. So first I'll do it on the Live side. In order to get Live to send sync to MODX, you go down to the output part because we're outputting sync to the MODX, and we are also outputting MIDI. Oh, this is probably a good time to show you how to set up the MODX in live. On the input side, we're just getting MIDI from the MODX. We've got nothing going on in terms of control surface. There may be a control surface for it, and I haven't gotten there yet. I was mostly just interested in recording. So the fact that control surface isn't set up doesn't mean anything. It just means I haven't gotten there. But we are receiving MIDI from the MODX, and we are sending it back, and we are also sending sync. Now, let me put the MODX desktop back up again. Oh, remember how we were getting all kinds of clock? Let me show you this on here. Turn off the clock filter. And look at all that clock. My goodness gracious, just clocking away. And it's coming from the MODX. Well, there's why. See, it's saying transmit sync. And if and it's still transmitting. Clock out. There, got rid of that. However, we're still receiving sync. Yeah, that's how it works. So I can control tempo from live as long as it's playing, because the way that live works is it only transmits sync while it's playing. And so there you go. Now, what else can we do? Well, instead of recording it on the fly, this is where this plugin comes in handy. I have my little demo song that's just a MIDI file stored on the MODX. And if I drag that in, being careful to land on the right tracks, there it is. So now I can play it. I think that's about the right tempo. Okay, so that's how you get the MIDI recording going on live. All right, now we've got live up and running. This is just a brand new project. This is the opening screen. And we could choose one of two choices here for the software instrument. I'm going to choose a plugin because I'm going to put that MODX VST on the first track. But you could also, well, actually, it's yeah, I want to put this on the first track. So we'll create this, and so the first thing we need to do is get that rascal in there. And the way you do that is in the instrument choice. And there it is. So we've got MODX Connect in there. Now I'm going to create an external MIDI track. And what's my source? Well, I guess I need to get that real estate back. There's the MODX, port 1, channel 1. Okay. I'm going to duplicate that 4 times. I'm going to change this one to channel 2, channel 3, channel 4. I'm going to record enable them all. Cross my fingers. Oh boy, that's ugly. Okay. Well, now what you've seen is live is Logic is going to be the hardest one to do. And the first thing we're going to do is go to the project settings MIDI screen. Okay. And that's not it. That I fake myself out with that every time. It's the recording settings. One of the things that Logic does is it mixes all the incoming MIDI. We're sending MIDI on 4 channels. Down here you can see these notes, and you know but if you don't do this deal where you demix them, they all play on all channels. So the reason that sounded so ugly is because they were simultaneously playing all 4 channels, I bet. Let's try now. Yeah, see, that's the way it's supposed to sound. And it took me a while to find that. I don't know why they don't have that in the MIDI settings, but it's in recording. Just remember that. And it's by project. You have to change it by project. I think that's probably the biggest puzzler I had getting it going in live. Now, if I want to, I can get rid of make a little real estate. Now, if I want to record, I should be able to just record. There we go. Don't panic. It's doing that mixing thing. See how it's all in one track? But the auto demix magic happens when you stop recording. It just splashes them all into the right place. Now, the interesting question is whether they put them in the right tracks. Let's just see. Go back here, play it. Hey, it did. How about that? Another lucky break. Okay. All right, so that's we're on our way to recording. Let's bring back on the little plug-in. Once again, we can pull in the performance, and if we saved this project and reopened it, we could send that performance back to the MODX without having to chase down the performance. And I think it even keeps the settings of the performance. I haven't checked that out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. And then to get our song in there, we grab our song and keep our fingers crossed. There's a choice there. The tempo is the default for, let's import the tempo. Okay, so that way, and the tempo is 116, which is what the song was recorded at. And now if I go back and play it, there you go. I think that's how you do it in Logic.